I had a coworker last night on my way out. He's like, Marsh, you write every day? I'm like, yeah, I write every day. And he can see it on my Instagram stories. If you haven't connected to me, go ahead and do so right there at Marsh Buice, Buice, on Instagram. So I said, yeah, I have to. It's so important to me. As you can see here, man, I have like 3 different notepads that I have. And I'll explain to you in a minute, what each one of them actually does. But writing is super, super important. I do believe that you should write every day. Pick a time every single day that is a NMW, a no matter what. So no matter what, every single day, man, I'm going to knock this thing out. And it's nothing that you have to do formally or anything like that. It's more so of just a discipline that you continue to practice. The times I pick are in the mornings. I pick the mornings because that is when I'm most fresh. If I wait till the end of the day, I'm tired and I don't want to give tired thoughts to my life. So writing is that lead domino for me that kicks off everything else. As a matter of fact, I do it before I do anything else, is I bang those thoughts out on paper, which is what these notepads are. Some of these thoughts come right here onto the sales life. And then other times they're just random thoughts. And it's just things that I can actually just free flow from there. Writing is so important because it creates a narrative every day. Like I can't go back and erase what happened yesterday, but I can add a new page to today and keep on writing. So even if yesterday was a fail, then what I can do is I can write new thoughts to bridge off of those things. So let me tell you a few things that I write about, and hopefully you can apply these to your life. One topic that I may write about is what I learned today, WILT, and I call them the wilts. And what I learned today is, something that maybe I blew up, maybe I broke character, maybe I was short-tempered about something. Maybe I had some assumptions and it wasn't really the case. Maybe there were things that I should have done and haven't been doing. So I'm calling myself out on those things. So that's what I write about. What's important is that you write to get that expression. And there are many times where people say, I can't get my thoughts out. The reason being is because you don't push those thoughts out. The mechanism of really writing, physically writing, actually pushes you to get those thoughts out. So set a timer for 30 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever you have, and try to exercise, try to work that muscle, man. That's that mental muscle. Let me tell you something. When you start doing this, you practice this writing, it actually makes you a better communicator. Because what you're able to do is, most people babble. They just blah, 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 blah. They go on and on and on. You're like, what the fuck are we even talking about? Like, we're so far off the subject. And the reason being is because they finally get into this flow of thoughts and they just want to diarrhea all over the person that they're talking to with their thoughts. But if you begin to practice this every day of writing, then it's going to make you a more concise thinker, a clearer thinker. And because you've been rehearsing these things, then you're able to think quicker as well. Super, super powerful. And it seems like, well, I write about something I learned yesterday, and it seems so weird. Like, okay, I'm going to write about something and then I can instantly apply it to my life. Yeah. There's been many times, man, I've wrote about something and then I come across something later that day that actually connects to what I just wrote about. It's crazy. But see, had I not written it, I wouldn't be able to connect the dots. Writing makes you more receptive to everything that's out there in life. It makes you more sensitive to everything. So that way you're able to grab these different thoughts. The second thing that I write about is I write about something that you read. Sometimes when you're in a funk, you have to borrow someone else's voice until you can find your own. When I was in my lowest of lows, man, I was bankrupt, I was demoted, I was broke, had $11.18 in my account, and I had $10,000 coming up in obligations that somehow, some way, man, I had to figure out how to muscle it up. And I had no lines of credit. All my credit cards were maxed out. So I was like in this whirlwind. I knew if I wrote about that and only that, I would just be a victim. So I had to borrow someone else's voice from a book, and I had to write that out. And I wrote it word for word, man. I didn't know where it was going to lead. John Kabat-Zinn was one that I wrote like word for word, and was, just finding that Zen-like state, that peace, because I had such inner turmoil at that time. And so I was trying to figure out how I could settle the waters. I didn't have the answers. I didn't have it. So what I did is I wrote word for word out of that book, chapters of the book. I get up early in the morning, just write word for word for word. I didn't know where it was going to lead. And I don't think I ever referenced back to it, but it seared in my soul. This is what's important too, the mechanism of writing versus typing. I don't type because I feel there's a sense of censorship and editing that goes on with that. Because I may say, oh, I don't want to talk about that, or I don't want to go down that hole. Or I may, misspelled words, or I messed the flow up. So this is why writing is so important, because it doesn't matter, man. It's on a piece of paper. Some of the words I can't ever, when I go back and read them, I can't even read them. I don't even know what the hell I even put there. I have to read around the words and then come back to it and say, oh, I think that's what you mean. Or I have to just skip that word altogether and say, well, that's we're gonna strike that from the next podcast. So what's important when you write is that you don't write just about your problems. I'm careful about that. I write more so about, if I'm going to lay a problem on the paper, then I'm also going to write out solutions too. Because if you only write about your frustrations, then I'm going to stay in this perpetual state of anger and resentment and entitlement, and feel like I'm a victim and everybody else should be, catering to me. No, if I'm going to write about something, then it's got to have a solution or an option of solutions. This is sometimes where I actually become as if I'm writing a letter to myself, or I'm writing back to myself. So the initial letter that I'm writing is, here's my frustrations. And then the letter back, which would be the answers, would be as if someone wrote me and I'm giving advice back to them. So that's something that I do as well. But pulling it all back in, I'm not a big gratitude journal guy. I do believe in gratitude, but my gratitude is being appreciative of the things that I've learned, being appreciative of the things that I've read. That's my gratitude. I'm grateful for the butterflies and the blue skies. Like, that don't do shit for me. But what I will do is I'll take something that I read and actually write that word for word. That's an appreciation for the author for putting in years of his hard work. And then I sit there and write it on paper. That's the biggest form of appreciation that I can have. And then the last thing that I write about is, this is what I call the muscle and bone method. And the muscle and bone method is, so you have the bone, and in order for that bone to move, you've got to have muscles that go around that, right? The muscle and bone method is taking things that I learned and how they connect to my everyday life. This is what makes you more receptive to life, because everything that you do out there is material. It's material that you like, oh my God, I can use this. I can apply this to my life. This is what's going to make life more interesting for you and more spicy for you, because you don't get into this same as lame, because everything is a new experience. So through the muscle and bone method, what I'm able to do is I'm able to draw from all these colorful ideas, something I see on TV, something I'm having a conversation with, something that I read, something that I just notice. And I'm able to pick up on these things, conversations that I'm having with my wife or my daughter. It's these things, and it's like, oh my God, this is how it applies to my life. That is so important to me, and that's what needs to be important to you. So my challenge for you is for you to write. Take up writing. Doesn't mean that you have to publish it to the world. Recording my thoughts keeps me accountable, both in how I live, but also how I contribute. So it's necessary for me that I don't keep it within. I've been blessed with so many gifts of the ability to be able to tell stories and share. And so I don't sit on that gift, I actually give it out. But as I give out, more comes back to me also. That's just how life works. So your challenge this week is to start with just one page. There are days where that's all I get is one page. And sometimes, man, I'm like halfway down a page. Let's see if I can find one. Okay, so like that, this. So it's just little jots there. And I didn't really have a lot that day. But I pushed myself, but see, here's another one that's just a half a page. And then I stopped. When I can't fill a full page, then I have to go to a different topic. Now, another thing that I do that has helped me in my writing is I record my thoughts on my voice memo app. It is impossible for me to take time out all the time, whip out a piece of paper and write down. I used to do that. I used to carry a little spiral notebook and keep it in my back pocket and write those thoughts down. But sometimes when I'm driving, I have those thoughts. And when I get to the next stop, I'm going to forget them. And then sometimes I've written while I'm going down the road and not looking at the paper. And now I can't even read it anyway. So what I've developed is the discipline to actually record my thoughts, voice memo record. So what I'll do is I'll record those thoughts and then go back to them later. Like I showed my buddy yesterday when he asked me about my writing, I said, dude, I have like 2,000 voice memos that of things that I've learned of material that I haven't even gotten to yet. I'll never run out of material. It's impossible because I'm probably adding 5 or 6 a day to that. Sometimes I'm running down the road, hear a thought in the podcast. I'm like, man, that makes perfect sense. And it's something that's applicable to my life. Sometimes I'm having conversations with customers or with employees, and it just resonates, man. The good shit sticks. And that's what I'm so attentive to is the things that I can actually use in my life and apply in my life. Not to preach to others, to live it and to put it in my life. And then that way I can share it with others as well. So hopefully this helps. Make sure that you start the discipline of writing and let me know how that goes.